episode of Boston Has Entered the Chat. I'm Laura Stickles here today in the PNC Bank studio. I've got Danielle Stein joining me for her very first NESN podcast, which is awesome. Danielle, I also just met you like an hour ago, but I know we're also excited at NESN to have you on an episode, one of our podcasts. Welcome.
Thank you.
And for everyone who's just meeting you at home, what are your ties to the Boston area?
Yeah, born and raised from Framingham originally, and always have just grown up being the biggest Boston sports fan. Inspired me to go on and become a sports reporter, an anchor, everything like that. I actually just completed working as a sports anchor in Orlando, Florida, working at a TV station there. Now I'm back home, back to the roots, and just ready to really hit the ground running back home here.
Awesome. What brought you back to Boston?
It's home. I love the sports. I love the culture, everything that it is. Family is here. And, you know, like I said, my love for sports journalism and sports reporting and hosting and talking really came from the love of the sports here. I was working at NESN as a broadcast associate back when I was in college. So the roots are here. Everyone's here. So it's just good to be back.
Awesome. Well, you're joining the show at a good time because we'll be talking about the Patriots today, who actually are coming off a win, which is kind of a rare occurrence this season. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about the World Series. We're going to send the MLB season off into the sunset, put that to bed. The World Series champions are the LA Dodgers. They won in Game 5 last night over the New York Yankees in historic fashion because they came from behind from a 5-run deficit, which was the biggest comeback in the clinching game of a World Series ever. So history on both sides of the World Series because that Freddie Freeman walk-off grand slam in Game 1 was also history-making as well. So great to see for the Dodgers. If you're a Red Sox fan, you probably like seeing the Yankees go down in this kind of fashion because on the other side of it especially, I think the Yankees also made history as potentially the worst defensive inning in World Series or playoff baseball ever. That was really awful. The top of the fifth, Cole had been pitching a no-hitter, and then just a nightmare fifth inning for the Yankees. Aaron Judge drops a fly ball. Anthony Volpe spiked a throw into the dirt, and then Garrett Cole didn't cover first on a slow roller down the line.
Yeah,
and that was really kind of the beginning of the end for them.
Yeah, for Judge, that being the first error of the season for him, that's when you know things are going to be going down. When you're getting your firsts in the World Series in a Game 5, your first error, and that is the kind of thing that led to that snowball effect of what went down in that inning where it basically just imploded in front of them.
Yeah, definitely. I think just beyond that, what are really your biggest takeaways from this series? Because for me, obviously, like I think getting that grand slam in Game 1 was huge, especially for the Dodgers, because then they were able to conserve their bullpen in Game 4 when they clearly weren't, it seemed like they weren't going to be able to make a comeback there. And then they definitely needed their bullpen for Game 5. What were your biggest takeaways from the series?
I mean, you mentioned Freddie Freeman in that grand slam, but watching him go back to back to back to back in games of home runs, 4 straight, which is the first time that's ever been done in World Series history. I mean, come on, that's just so cool to see. The stories don't write themselves better, especially a guy who is branded himself so well as this really human player as well, where he has a son there, he's hugging his dad, people are rallying behind him. His story, I think, just kind of captured the hearts of baseball fans and beyond, and just seeing the success that he had as he lifted up that MVP trophy at the end too. It felt really fitting for him as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, if you're not familiar with Freddie's story, obviously he was struggling with the ankle injury, but beyond that, also his son was struggling with some health issues earlier in that season. So to be able to end his season on this kind of note, I know probably means a lot to him and means a lot to his family. I think one of my biggest takeaways is just when you look at the two teams, the Dodgers have always been capitalizing on teams' mistakes this entire season. And the New York Yankees weren't going to be able to get away with that fifth inning. I mean, maybe that's an inning that you can kind of get away with during the regular season when it's one game out of 162, but you can't get away with that in a potential clinching game of a World Series. And sure enough, the Dodgers obviously, you know, made the most of those errors, and they scored 5 unearned runs, which is really just unheard of, truly, in a World Series game. But, you know, I know, obviously, Garrett Cole, it's tough because he didn't cover first base when he needed to on that roller down the first baseline. But I also was just thinking for him, like, I thought it was actually a pretty tough performance to come back out after that 5th inning and nearly pitch 2 more innings and really kind of keep his team in it after what was that really tough inning. It was a great performance from him, but definitely not enough for the Yankees. And Mookie Betts, it's exciting for, obviously I think it's disappointing for Red Sox fans to see Mookie Betts.
It's just one of those things, and it's a dagger every time you see him do well. You love seeing the success out of him because he's just still beloved even when the cards were dealt the way they were. But, seeing him get his 2nd World Series ring in LA and
he clinched it with that sac fly on top of that.
He's the reason why they got that one there.
He's the reason why they got it. I thought, the last out too was pretty interesting as well because they are striking out Alex Verdugo to make the final out. So kind of interesting as well because obviously Mookie Betts goes off as like this beloved character in Red Sox history, and Alex Verdugo has, a lot of mixed emotions
for sure
surrounding him around Red Sox Nation. So kind of interesting to see how that all went down. But I think something else that stuck out to me about this World Series, especially when you listen to a lot of the players talk about their post-game or talk in their post-game interviews, was they all referenced their 2020 World Series win. And a lot of them mentioned the fact, they said no, that was still a real World Series win. Everybody had the same playing field. We were the clear winners in that. But at the same time, I was thinking if they truly felt that, they wouldn't continue to be bringing it up. Right. And beyond that, they didn't have really the opportunity to celebrate the way that they wanted to. They didn't get a parade. They didn't even get to do the champagne showers in the locker room. There was none of that during that season. So it's nice to see them finally get rings that they can consider real and that the entire nation can consider real as well, even though a lot of us probably thought they were real before. But, now there's no questioning it.
Yeah, it's like when people reference the NBA bubble, and I always think back to that. Everyone kind of was like, that wasn't real. It was kind of a fever dream, I think, for a lot of NBA fans. Kind of the same thing, putting a little asterisk on all of 2020 in the sports world. Yes, they did win that. It is valid 100%, but this one seems to feel different for all the players as they've been reacting to it as well.
Yeah, and I think something too that a lot of or what I've seen a lot of on my stories, at least on Instagram, is people posting oh, big surprise, the Dodgers won the World Series after spending over $1 billion this offseason on the payroll. And I think when you look at it as well, I don't know. I mean, I do feel like the Dodgers actually kind of had to overcome some things throughout this series. You had to overcome injuries to Mookie Betts, and which was back in, I think, what was that? It was back in June, as well as an injury to Yamamoto, and then Glass now obviously ruled out for October.
Shohei, even just this last World Series.
Yeah, exactly. And so it wasn't necessarily a walk in the park for them. Yes, they did have a ton of star talent, but beyond that too, when you see, I mean, if World Series were won based off of payroll, the Mets would have won several World Series at this point. And you do see, as well, a lot of the teams that do end up making it to the World Series are on the upper ends of the payroll. But a lot about baseball is really getting hot at the right time. And you saw that last year with Arizona. And if you're not hot at the right time, you're not going to win. And the Dodgers were consistent throughout the season, and they still had it during the World Series.
I think it's one thing to say, yes, the Dodgers are one of the most valuable and richest franchises in MLB, but then when you look across and you see it's against the Yankees and you say, okay, these are the two top when you look at money. And I saw something earlier today that I got a good laugh about. It was I think the Moneyball effect is over, where the Jonah Hill isn't going to be going out and scraping together this team anymore of these misfits and really calculating it. It's the teams who are spending the most to get these franchise-changing players like an Aaron Judge, like a Shohei Ohtani. Those are the names. Mookie Betts, for example. You pay the big money, and they're going to respond accordingly.
Yeah. Speaking of paying the big money, where does Shohei Ohtani rank now, do you think, in the list of all-time greats?
So I think it's inevitable. He's going to go down as one of the greatest players to ever play the game. I think this season was interesting for him, though, too, just because we didn't even see him pitch. He did so much just in terms of batting, getting that 50-50 club, more than 50 home runs, more than 50 stolen bases, breaking just about any record that you might see. And that's only half of his game. He's going to be pitching again next year. He was still recovering from that surgery that he had last offseason. And again, he only went 2 of 19 in this World Series. He didn't have his best performance, but it's kind of like, oh, you got your name on the group project and you got the A. No, he got them there to begin with. His performance throughout the entire regular season is what helped the Dodgers get to that World Series in the end, even if he didn't have his best outing out there.
Yeah, I think what you really need to think of this as is like Shohei Ohtani building his resume. When you look at Shohei Ohtani right now as an athlete, I think it's pretty obvious he's going to go down as one of the best baseball players to play this sport, but right now he's still building that resume, especially after his time with the Angels. But clearly, like, he's a unicorn in the game of baseball, right? Like you said, he only played half his game this season. And what I think is so impressive about Shohei, and what I've said on this podcast in the past, is that like he's making history doing things that typically he doesn't even make history doing. Like he makes history by being a two-way player and being so good at doing both. But this season, he made history just for his performances at the plate. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's what makes Shohei Ohtani so special. But yeah, I mean, he is doing things athletically right now that have never been done before, and I think he sits at the top. And right now, like, the game of baseball is the hardest to play than it's ever been in the past. Just when you look at all the advancements in technology and everything that's been improving, like, hitting a baseball right now is nearly impossible, and it's only getting harder. And the fact that he's doing what he is extremely impressive.
I think another thing to add too, we mentioned some of the injury problems that he's dealt with over the past year plus, but he's had a lot of other distractions. Let's not forget, you know, his agent and the gambling situation that he had to kind of, you know, block out the noise around that. He still stayed focused throughout everything, and, you know, just even joining a new team for the first time. Granted, it was just across town in LA. It wasn't the biggest move for him to kind of uproot, but yeah, it's a change to get used to a new franchise, new organization, and you know, it seems like he handled it as perfectly as anyone really could.
No, I feel like he's just a model citizen, honestly. Like, what's the name of it? Is his dog's name Echo? I think his dog's name might be Echo. Hopefully,
it's a very cute puppy.
Maybe we can fact check it. But when he had his dog throw out the first pitch at one of the Dodgers games, I was like, this is like the model human.
And he got married this year as well. So yeah, a lot of things going on.
Not only is he the model baseball player, just like the model human being. I think one other topic I wanted to touch on was Walker Buehler, who pitched the ninth only on one day of rest after starting Game 3 less than 2 years removed from his second Tommy John surgery. And I think too, like, this goes back to the fact, like, was this guaranteed for the Dodgers? And it's like, Walker Buehler was a pitcher that wasn't even guaranteed to make this postseason roster. Like, he did not have a good regular season, but pitched 5 shutout innings in Game 3, and then 2 days later had the final 3 outs to clinch the championship. So
throwing heaters too, 92 getting up there as well. Like, they were really rallying behind him, and it seemed like a really well-earned final out for him to get that one to clinch this World Series.
Yeah, absolutely. I just like, I'm really happy about this World Series too. Like, I remember in the World Series past, I like haven't necessarily had the same interest that I had in it this year, and I think it was because, like, the games were really good. Yeah, like, they kept your attention, and I think especially after Game 1 when you saw Freddie Freeman walk it off with that grand slam, like, you realized that, I don't know, nothing's really guaranteed in this series. And I actually turned the game on in the 5th inning. I got home last night in the 5th inning, turned the game on, and I see Freddie Freeman at the plate with 2 outs and the bases loaded. I'm like, ooh, like, this could be it. This could be it.
See, I'm going to admit, I was the opposite. I saw that they were down 5-0, and I turned it back to more NBA. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, shoot, I see what's going on. Let me check it out. But no, it was definitely a good series. And honestly, from a Boston perspective, you just like to see the Yankees lose, I think, as well.
Definitely. So. Always like to see the Yankees lose. If you have more topics that you want to contribute to Boston Enter the Chat, you can call the Boston Has Entered the Chat hotline at 617-790-0928 or email us at thechat@nesn.com. So that puts a bow on the baseball season for us. And now it's time to move on to our Patriots at Titans preview.
Football time.
Yes, football time. The 2-6 Patriots are going to travel to Nashville this weekend to face the 1-6 Titans. So this actually, can you believe it, might have the Patriots riding a 2-game winning streak.
First streak under Gerard Mayo, potentially.
If they can come out on top, which is definitely not guaranteed. But yeah, so the Patriots advanced to 2-6 after their win over the Jets last week. And it does seem like they have a real chance of making it 3-6. These are two teams that are definitely feeling each other's pain currently at the quarterback position. Both their starting quarterbacks, and Will Levis and Drake May, are out with could potentially out with injuries. Mm-hmm. Both might play. It's kind of up in the air for both teams. We'll get into that in just a moment. But what do you really expect from this game? I think it's definitely going to depend, especially when it comes to the Patriots, who plays at quarterback. I think, like, with the Titans, it's like, I don't know, they seem like the same guy. We'll get into that in a second. Mm-hmm. But what are you expecting from this game?
No, it's true. These are two teams that are kind of in the same boat right now. Brand new head coaches that they're kind of playing under for the first time, getting the feel of a new coaching staff, new quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, Mason Rudolph coming in for Will Levis, things like that. 5 games, 3 games. They're all just kind of, playing a little bits here and there. So both of these teams are really just trying to get through. Honestly, they're kind of fighting for lottery picks as well in the draft. They're trying to figure out maybe who's going to be getting the top picks, because they're kind of vying for that right now at the top. But I'm not saying anyone's going to be trying to fluke on this game by any means, but of course we think the loser of this one could have a higher chance of getting a better draft pick moving forward.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces of discussion around this game is, like, for both the Patriots and for the Titans, it's like, do you even want Will Levis playing this game? Do you even want Drake May playing this game? But I think, like, I don't think this is necessarily, though. I mean, you look at the fact that the Titans are 1-6. This is not going to be a cakewalk for the Patriots, because the Titans shockingly actually have a really good defense, especially when you consider their record. At the time of this recording, the defense has allowed the least amount of passing yards per game in 265 and total yards in 151 this season in the NFL. And true, like. And on the other side of this, the Patriots' pass defense is going to need to continue to be good against what has been a bad Titans team. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a tough matchup for the Patriots for sure. This is not going to be an easy game, even though it looks like it could potentially be when you consider the record.
It's interesting because on the offensive side for the Titans, they have a couple of players that stand out name-wise on their roster, with Calvin Ridley, and no longer, because he actually just recently got dealt to the Chiefs, but DeAndre Hopkins. Both of them were actually linked to the Patriots during the offseason as potential targets for getting wide receivers. The Patriots couldn't land either of them. They both ended up in Tennessee. Calvin Ridley hasn't really been showing up the way that the Titans would have wanted him to. Now that kind of goes back to the same kind of dilemma that the Patriots are going through with, if we had a good receiver, would that even matter if our quarterback situation is what it is right now? So that could be what is unfolding in Tennessee as well, with a little bit of uncertainty under center for them. But I do think that it is to note that they do have this stud on their offense as well, that we can probably guarantee Christian Gonzalez will be all over come Sunday.
Yeah, no, and I think I like that you bring up Christian Gonzalez, because he's really been one of the highlights this season for the Patriots on their defensive end. And like that's going to be key, truly, in this matchup with the Titans. I think one thing that I'm looking at too is that the Patriots' pass defense, like, especially this weekend, starting quarterback Will Levis has, if he starts, Mason Rudolph as well. Neither of them have been particularly accurate this season, and they do have passing threats. Like, the Titans do have receivers downfield, but they just have not been accurate this season. And I think if you can have Christian Gonzalez, like, taking away any sort of threat, I mean, that's definitely going to create some problems for the Titans. I think on top of that, the Patriots have been struggling to run the ball as of late. It's definitely not going to get easier against the Titans, because the Titans, we mentioned their passing defense, but they're also 12th in the league, allowing 113 yards per game.
Averaging 2 yards a carry as well.
Exactly. So I think that being said, though, they are coming off a poor performance in Detroit on Sunday when they allowed the Lions to rush for 164 yards. And at the same time, it does feel like the Patriots, their offensive line is starting to come together a little bit. You know, that you've seen them play together now for, what was it, the second straight week and the third time in 4 games. So it seems like there's starting to be some consistency there in what was supposed to be like a probably what people thought at the beginning of the season was going to be like the biggest weak link of the team. It does feel like they're starting to come together a little bit.
We saw Vidarian Lowe actually was in practice, and he looks to be healthier. He talked about that he has been going through some health problems, and the left tackle is pretty hopeful that he should be good to go come Sunday. But something to note about the Lions' last game that they had against a very good Detroit team, may I say, but 3 of their touchdowns that were scored that Detroit scored on the Titans were special teams, actually. So it was, I believe, 1 kickoff return and 2 punt returns. So could be an area for the Patriots to try to capitalize on if they can get anything going on their special teams units as well. We saw Javon Baker, who has not really played at all because he's been dealing with injuries as well, where the rookies out of UCF. He was getting some of those reps with that punt return squad. So that could be a potential threat for them if they could get him going on that unit as well.
Okay, really quick, before we move on to the next topic, Drake Maye, obviously, right now, he's out with a concussion. He's been limited in practice, but it does seem like he is progressing through concussion protocol. It seems like based on his availability right now in practice, he's at stage 4. If he's available, should he play?
I'm going to say no, because this is a guy you want to be the face of your franchise for a long time. If he's having any inkling of not feeling his best right now, I say why rush? Maybe that independent doctor in stage 5 of concussion protocol does clear him. And if they do, maybe that is what Jerod Mayo is going to go with, and that's what they should. But I think that if you can hold him for 2 weeks rather than 1 week, get him some more time against a team that's the Tennessee Titans that, Jacoby Brissett may have a very good chance at beating on his own without Drake Maye and getting Maye as close to peak rookie that he can be in just a couple weeks down the line. I say hold him off, because why risk it at this point in the season at a 2-6 season?
I actually disagree with you, because I think that this concussion protocol exists for a reason. Like, this is the only injury in the NFL where you actually have to progress through this type of protocol to be cleared again to play. And this exists exactly for this reason. And if you're being cleared to play for a concussion, that means you are good to go. And you can't be rushed back from a concussion through this protocol, or you're not supposed to be. And if you are, then this protocol isn't working and it's not doing its job. And I actually do think that they need Drake Maye to win this game, because like I said, I think this is going to be, I know the Titans are 1-6, but like I said, they have a really good defense for being 1-6, and I think they're going to need Drake Maye if they want to win this game. Mm-hmm. All right, time for the Sunday night football preview, though. We've got Colts versus Vikings. The Vikings are looking to end their 2-game losing streak, and they're hosting the Colts, who are sitting exactly at 500. And the talk, I feel like, of the NFL as of right now is the Colts benching Anthony Richardson for Joe Flacco. And this comes at a very interesting time, especially after last week when Anthony Richardson was tapped out. Yeah, tapped out of that game against the Texans on Sunday because he was too tired. It also comes in the midst of Anthony Richardson's season, in which he has a 44.8 completion percentage, which is the lowest in the NFL by far. Yeah. And it's an interesting situation. What do you think about that decision?
So here's the thing. I covered Anthony Richardson when he was playing at the University of Florida. I saw him close up. I think he's a very talented kid, but the rhetoric around him when he was coming out of college, getting that number 4 draft pick, was that he is a raw talent. He's going to be inexperienced, but he can develop into a very quality player. Is 39-year-old Joe Flacco the future of this franchise? No, I don't think anyone on that team would even say that themselves. I think they should still stand by Richardson. But personally, I think that to get better, you need to get reps. Yeah. And I would say that basically about Drake Maye as well, if I was taking out any sort of health concerns or concussion protocols, that in order to get better, you need to be out on the field and doing the thing. So for Anthony Richardson to have been tired, that might have been, a bit of a fluke. It seems like a lot of his teammates are really rallying behind him, saying it seems like it was a mince of words that he kind of went with there. And they're saying, no, he's good. We back him as our quarterback. But, Joe Flacco coming off of comeback player of the year last year when he was playing with the Browns for a little bit, and now he is here to save the day in Indy. I don't know if the 39-year-old kind of prolonged backup is what they'll be looking for their future.
Joe Flacco seems to age like a fine wine. He gets better, which is shocking. Anyways, but with Anthony Richardson, yeah, I think it's a situation. I mean, he's, first of all, when it comes to the comments, and I think it's actually related on both ends of it, it's really just about his age. When it comes to the comments, I think when you're that young, you don't realize, or sometimes it takes a moment like that to really realize all of the attention that's on you as a starting quarterback in the NFL. And like messing up a word like that can be a firestorm, like a social media, just a media in general firestorm. So I think that's potentially part of that. But on the other side of it too, I think it's just specifically like time on the field. Like you need to get those reps. And now that Joe Flacco's been named starter, he's not going to get those in practice either. And I think this is really a situation when the Colts drafted him, where you knew what you were getting. Like you drafted him because he's a great athletic quarterback, but you knew that there were going to be these growing pains. And it's not like he's essentially a rookie QB. Like he barely played last season. But I also think that's part of it. It's like, okay, yeah, we're sitting him to give him more time to learn. It's like, well, he already sat last season, basically. So it's not like he necessarily needs to sit again. I really do think that he needs to get into the system, and that the Colts need to figure out what they have in him. And you're hearing a lot of people compare him to Josh Allen and what Bills fans had to endure for the first couple of Josh Allen seasons. And obviously look how that turned out. So I think you really need to just like buy into the process a little bit, because I don't think it makes sense to really start Joe Flacco, like we said, because Joe Flacco's not going to be your solution long term. But I think the problem here really for the Colts is that they're a prisoner of their own record. They're at 500 right now, and they're like, we have a chance to potentially do something this season, and we don't feel like Anthony Richardson gives us the best chance to win. So that's why they want to go with Joe Flacco.
They're like, maybe
we can put something together here. But I think if their record was anything different, I think they would be sticking with Anthony Richardson and really kind of, seeing how this works out for him. But it's really interesting in this matchup too with the Vikings when you see the comparison to Sam Darnold, because obviously Sam Darnold started his career with the Jets and was thrust into that system before he was ready on a bad Jets team, and now you're seeing him down the line really being able to resurrect his career. So maybe that's the track that Anthony Richardson takes. I feel like I've been seeing it more and more in the league recently. But
also seeing this Vikings team as one who, maybe we thought of them as one of the tops in the NFL at the beginning, and we still might, but we're seeing them kind of regress with 2 straight losses. So this could have been an opportunity that Richardson could have cemented himself as a true baller for this team, honestly, because, this Vikings team is good. They've got weapons. They've got Justin Jefferson, of course, who's one of the best receivers in the NFL, and he's doing a lot of work, and him and Darnold seem to be connecting really well. That could have been a great opportunity for Sunday Night Football Showdown and Richardson to really show up his stuff, but it looks like it'll be Flacco.
Yeah, well, especially when you think about the way that the Vikings defense has been playing the past couple of weeks. I mean, they had one of the best defenses in the NFL through the first, 7 weeks of the season, and then just completely 180'd recently. And yeah, that's not good. Like, they've been really, that was like Brian Flores and the Vikings defense. Like, that was one of the huge pieces of their team. I know a lot of people have been talking a lot about, how great Sam Darnold has been and the story of him. But the defense has been incredible. But the fact that it's been bad the last 2 weeks, it's like maybe Anthony Richardson really could have capitalized on that. I think just to shed some light too on the Vikings offense before we move on here, when you're bringing up Justin Jefferson, I think they really need to get Jordan Addison going a little bit, who's their wide receiver too. I know there have been some off-field antics with him, but I think right now Sam Darnold is just like looking a little bit too much to Jefferson, and I feel like they need to try to distribute the ball just a little bit more downfield. So that's my one real takeaway when it comes to the Vikings offense. But yeah, the Richardson conversation, it's an interesting one. And every season we have this discussion, like, should you start a rookie QB? Should you bench them? Richardson's not really a rookie, but he kind of
is.
He's
kind of one,
he really is a rookie, especially when you consider his age. But yeah, interesting situation.
Yeah, and I think one last thing I want to point out about this one. Last time they played, it was a fun one. I don't know if you remember, it was 2022. Yeah, the Colts up 33-0 at halftime, and the Vikings came storming back, forcing overtime, and ending up winning on a field goal. So if it's going to be anything like that one, hopefully we can be in store for a good Sunday night football game coming up this weekend.
So everyone's been talking about that 2022 matchup. So either the Vikings are going to look to go 6-2, or the Colts are going to end up above 500. It's going to be interesting. All right. Well, we have another interview that we're about to toss to with Khano Smith. He's the head coach of Rhode Island FC as well as the general manager. And Rhode Island FC, they just finished their inaugural regular season, and now they're in the playoffs. They're the 5th seeded team in the playoffs, and they play Indy FC.
Indy 11.
Indy 11. Thank you for the correction. They play Indy 11 in the first round in Indy on Sunday on NESN.
Going on the road, the USL Championship Playoffs are getting started, and first-timers for Khano Smith and Rhode Island FC.
It was great to talk to him all about the inaugural season as well, and the new stadium and everything that they have coming up. So here we go. Here is Khano Smith. Well, we're happy to have Khano Smith on the show today. He's the GM and head coach of Rhode Island FC, which is about to start their playoff run. But this was the very first season for Rhode Island FC. And Khano, this was also your very first season as a head coach. So what was it like to really begin your head coaching career with the team's inaugural season?
A lot of fun and really difficult. It was, I think back to this time last year where we probably had one player signed at that time. So to seeing where the whole thing has gone since that day, it's been pretty cool. I was just actually, one of my assistants is from Ireland, and we went to Ireland to look at some players, and his parents came to the last game. So I just said to them, I'm like, wow, a year ago if I was at your house and we had no players, and look where we are now. So definitely a lot of work, but pretty fun.
And from then to go to your final match of this regular season, the 8-1 result over Miami, which was huge, especially to do that on Fan Appreciation Night. How are you guys going to take that kind of momentum as you're going into your first ever playoff match?
Yeah, I think obviously Indy is going to be, no disrespect to Miami, but a much tougher opponent. So it's certainly not going to be that easy or easy at all. But yeah, hopefully the players take a lot of confidence into the match, and obviously they probably couldn't ask for any better performance to instill confidence in them. So yeah, it was a nice lead into the playoff game.
When you look at Indy 11, what are some of the keys that it's going to take to beat a team like that?
Yeah, they're very, I guess I would describe them as like a vertical team. Like they try and get the ball forward as quickly as possible to be able to hurt you when you're disorganized and out of possession and in bad position. So they have, honestly, quality all over the field, from their goalkeeper, who's on loan from an MLS team. They have experienced USL defenders in defense. They have quality, lethal USL attackers up front. Augie Williams, he's scored double-digit goals probably the last 2 to 3 seasons at least. So, yeah, they try to get the ball forward quickly and try and score goals as quickly as possible. So we're definitely going to have to be ready for that.
Khano, your team is starting on the road for these playoffs, but your home crowd has been there with you all season long for your inaugural season. What has it been like kind of cultivating this environment in Rhode Island to get those sports fans really, clinging on to Rhode Island FC? There's not many sports in the state, so it's good to have, something to rally behind.
Yeah, I think we wanted to put a team on the field that the state of Rhode Island could be proud of, and hopefully the team mirrors the community. Like, they work hard, they have good team spirit, obviously can play beautiful soccer at times, but can roll our sleeves up and be aggressive and be dirty and have a chip on our shoulder when we need to. So I think there's been a good connection between the team and the fans, and honestly, I know every team probably says it, and you talk about the crowd being an extra player, but our team spirit is that we don't give up, we don't quit, and I think certainly the fans have that. If it's nobody in the stadium and there's nobody supporting us, then what is there really to play for? So I remember back in 2020 when there was no fans at sports, and yeah, I didn't enjoy soccer during that time. So yeah, for me, the fans and supporters are everything.
Well, the fans are going to get a little bit of reward in 2025, it seems, because there's going to be a new stadium coming to Pawtucket at the Tidewater Landing. What are you most excited about for that new facility? Because I've seen some of the renderings, and it looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, again, just the supporters and the fans bringing the energy that they have brought to burn in Smithfield, and hopefully it's going to be our stadium, and hopefully it's double the amount of people. We can only take about 5,000 at Burns Stadium, but at Tidewater Landing, we can get 10,500 people in there. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that energy carrying over. And honestly, just once that first game happens, maybe trying to find some time to take it all in and just really enjoy the experience before the game kicks off. And maybe I hope I have a moment to look around and take in the atmosphere and how great it's going to be.
Kind of something that you just mentioned before was that this team isn't giving up. I know they got a new slogan heading into this postseason run with Never Say Die. Where did that come from, and how are the players kind of rallying behind that right now?
Yeah, I mean, as a team, I told them what I would like them to be like. And I said, we have a team. I would like to build something and leave a legacy. You guys leave a legacy of a team that never gives up. So I don't know exactly where the Never Say Die came from. I don't think I uttered those 3 words. Maybe I did. But certainly I wanted the team spirit and a team that never gave up. And we watched the documentary together actually as a team on one road trip. And one of my favorite teams of all time was one of the Manchester United teams under Alex Ferguson. And those teams just never gave up. So we talked about that's what we wanted to be. And that's something that we could build from the start. And to the players' credit, I think now we have right around 12 goals after the 80th minute and some after the 90th minute. So, that's a credit to the players, credit to our performance staff that keep the players fit and being able to run and still push on at that time of the game. It's not easy to do. So, yeah, credit to the players and our staff for being able to keep them healthy and having that mindset and determination to keep going and never give up.
It also really speaks to your entire season as a whole, because you guys did get off to a slower start, but now you've won your final 6 games of the regular season. What are some moments that you can point to throughout the season in which you feel like your team was really able to embody that never say die mentality?
Yeah, I think it's been a lot of games. I think the North Carolina game we scored late, the Tulsa game we scored late, Detroit game we scored late to tie the game. So it's been multiple moments like that, but look, when I look back at the season and you look at our early struggles, we didn't lose a lot of games, but we also didn't win a lot of games. So we tied a lot of games, but I keep talking about it. If you go back and look at expansion teams in any league and anywhere around the world, instead of having 15 ties, they probably have 15 losses. So we only 2 teams in the league have less losses than us, and that's the first place team Louisville, and that's the second place team Charleston. So it was always going to take time for us to grow and develop and become a team. But I think the critical moment for us was after a Memphis game. We tied 2-2 after being up 2-0 in the 85th minute. And at that point, it probably felt like we were never going to win another game. And we gave the guys 3 days off, and we said, you know what, let's just come back on Monday ready to work. We're going to the toughest place in the league, Louisville. So what kind of team do we want to be? And to the players' credit, they showed up, and we ended up beating the best team in the league, the only time that they have lost or even dropped points at home. So that was a turning point for us.
And Khano, from your experience, having a lot of different levels of soccer, playing yourself as well as coaching, but this being your first time leading a team as the head coach into a playoffs, how can you draw from some of your previous soccer experience and kind of help shape this team as they're heading into the postseason run?
Yeah, me certainly as a player, I don't think I would have enjoyed the moment, in the moment. So I just say to them, just enjoy the experience. Whatever happens, we win on Saturday, we lose. Ultimately, you get to play a game with 20 of your closest friends because you're together every day. They say that they are our family, and obviously, I'm glad that they say that because it does feel like that. But that's their words, and ultimately, just enjoy the experience. Me as a player, I certainly wouldn't have enjoyed the experience. I would have been just trying to win the game. But whatever happens, just enjoy it, because being in your 20s and experiencing this with your friends is not going to happen too often. So it feels like just yesterday I was 24 and now I'm 43. So it happens quick.
Well, this game is going to be available to watch to all of our fans on NESN. So for anybody that's maybe tuning in to watch Rhode Island FC for the first time, who are some of the key players on this team that people should be looking out for?
Yeah, I mean, I hate singling them out because that goes against everything that we try to preach as a team and that we are a team. But I guess if you were looking, obviously I know the game, people enjoy attacking soccer and players that create and score goals. So, yeah, Noah Fuson, he's been outstanding for us this year. Noah is the leading assist. I guess they call it the golden playmaker in USL. So he had 10 assists. Albert Dika is our leading goal scorer. So he was the leading goal scorer in the league last year. He has 10 goals this year. So J.J. Williams, another forward that we have, coming off a hat trick against Miami last week. But we also have midfielders that have chipped in goals. Zach Harivu has 4. Clay Holstad, Frank Nardarcy, our center back for us, has 6 goals, which is certainly unheard of. So yeah, I think our goals are pretty spread out all over the place, which is nice. We're not really just focused in one area, and hopefully teams can't just look to stop one guy, which is I think a feather in our cap that you have to stop multiple people.
Well, Khano, congratulations. No matter how this postseason goes, on a remarkable first season for Rhode Island FC, we're wishing you good luck this weekend, and we'll be watching you on NESN. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the support.
Yeah, we want to thank Khano Smith again for coming on. It's a busy week for them. They fly out on Saturday. They're playing, like we said, Indy. And, I mean, it just seems like they've got a really good thing going on in Rhode Island right now. And obviously we have the New England Revolution, but it's just nice to have another soccer team, I think, in the New England area.
Absolutely. The USL Championship is growing. It's every year we're seeing more and more expansions to this league. So to see that and to see them be doing so well, 5th place as they're going, the 5th seed into the playoffs right now, just 7 losses on the season, like he mentioned. This team is doing all right under Khano in the first season.
No, they're doing really well. And like I said, like if you want to go and watch a game next year, you definitely should, because like I said about that new stadium, I saw the renderings and they look sick. Did you see them?
Yeah, they did. They look awesome.
I mean, I feel like stadium renderings always, I don't know, they look like heaven.
Shiny, yeah.
Like why, these like pictures look like they've come from heaven or something.
Is this heaven? No, it's just Pawtucket.
Yeah, no, is this heaven? No, it's Pawtucket. Yeah, I love that. Anyways, yes, so good luck to them. We will be rooting for them for sure. One other game that I'm really excited to watch this weekend is on Sunday, and it's the Bruins game at 5 p.m. Eastern, because the Bruins and NESN will be honoring the longtime play-by-play voice for the Boston Bruins, Jack Edwards, who was with the team for 19 seasons. And, I mean, truly just like an icon, right? Across all of the NHL, whether or not you loved him or hated him, everybody knew Jack Edwards, and everybody knew Jack Edwards' voice. So people will be honoring him on Sunday with Jack Edwards themed contests and entertainment in the arena, as well as limited edition Jack Edwards merchandise. And I have been like thinking, I'm like, what could this like entertainment or contest be?
What is this contest?
Like, what is a Jack Edwards themed contest? I'm like, who can come up with the best like Jack Edwardism or like best like funniest thing he said? I don't know. What do you think it could be?
Well, if it has anything to do with dressing up like Jack Edwards, I think this one is sealed, because take a look at this. We saw this amazing photo for the spirit of Halloween. This is Silas Brown. He is a massive Bruins fan. Every single year he dresses up as something. A lot of times it's been Bruins related. This is his 3rd year he's actually done a Bruins related costume. And this year he decided to be Jack Edwards. He made his wheelchair into the NESN anchor desk, which is so cool. Silas does have cerebral palsy. He and his dad, who was dressed up as Annie Brickley. It was so cute, honestly, to see that. And we love to show that kind of stuff here as well, too.
Yeah, no, and I think something, too, I stage managed for the Bruins now for the past 2 seasons. And so I got to work with Jack over the last 2 years of his career. And he was truly so, like, giving and generous with his time when it came to young kids whenever they would come into the booth. And he would always, you know, he was always a really focused guy. Like, pre-game, he was always looking at his notes, very, you know, super attention to detail and focus. But whenever a kid walked into that booth, he always gave them his full attention. And I know, like, personally, I was so impacted by Jack Edwards as well, because he gave me so much encouragement, especially over last season, it was a hard year for me. I mean, as you know, coming up in this industry can be challenging, and there's a lot of roadblocks and obstacles you face, and a lot of times you question whether or not you're good enough or whether or not you're worth it. And I remember having a lot of conversations with Jack last year before games when I was handing him his promo materials, and he'd ask me how things were going, and I would tell him, and he always told me, like, Laura, you're good at this, stick with this. And truly, you know, just one of the nicest guys, and I'm lucky that I got to meet him over the last 2 years and get to be there for his final 2 seasons, and really get to appreciate him for who he was. And like I said, you either loved him or you hated him, but he never let the hate take away from the way he wanted to call a game.
Yeah.
You know, like I would go on Twitter sometimes during the games, and like you would see people like saying wonderful things about Jack, and other people saying like, oh, I hate this call that Jack did. But you know what? He didn't care. He was always going to call a game the way that he wanted to call the game. And yeah, nobody did it like Jack Edwards.
All I can say is this Sunday, this building is going to be vibrating because, of course, that's one of his very famous calls. He has too many. Everyone's got a memory of him. For someone who was with 19 seasons, not to age myself, but that was a lot of my life. That's the voice that we all kind of grew up with being here in Boston. So it's going to be a special day on Sunday.
If the merchandise, I mean, it's probably too late. I'm pitching a High Above the Ice shirt, which was, you know, his go-to phrase when he would open a broadcast. High Above the Ice alongside Andy Brickley.
Yes.
I'm Jack Edwards. I would go for a High Above the Ice shirt for sure. And rumor has it he's growing out his hair in retirement.
We'll have to see it to believe it.
He's a big skier too. So Jack, I hope that you're skiing and you're loving retirement. I am excited to watch this game against the Kraken at 5 p.m. on Sunday to see everything that NESN and the Bruins have planned up for you to honor you and celebrate you. And thank you so much for all of your time and wonderful calls calling the Bruins. And with that, we send you off into another Friday. So thank you for watching another episode of Boston Has Entered the Chat.